Hey, everybody, it's Maria Boynton. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Atlanta Up Close. Today, we are talking about the runoff in the special election for State Senate District 35. Of course, we have Jaha Howard, who's in the race, and his opponent, Roger Bruce. Longtime friend, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. I woke up this morning. It was a good start to my day.
Amen. So why should you be the choice in this race?
I have 22 years of experience in the General Assembly. I know what the job is. And my name is on 87 pieces of legislation, 87 bills that went through both a Democratic and Republican chamber. Okay. I know how to work with the other side. I know how to disagree without being disagreeable. People will listen to me. I don't know if you remember the last day of the session when I was
in the well.
I was getting ready to leave, and there was a bill that came up. If you remember, that was brought in by the majority leader, who was a Republican, that wanted to take pieces of the city of South Fulton and put it into another city, because he had a friend who could not get the zoning that he wanted. And he presented it as if, you need to vote for this because I'm your leader,
right,
and I want you to do this. And I got up and I spoke against that bill, and his caucus voted with me against their leader.
Wow.
And then, on the last day, you can bring it back up for a second vote.
Correct.
And he did that. And the second time, I spoke again, and more people voted against it the second time than they did the first time. But that was because they knew me, they trusted me, they knew that I was not going to give them bad information, and in spite of the fact that it was their leader, they wanted factual information. They got it, they voted with me, and we defeated that bill.
So you know about crossing the aisle.
I know how to do it. I've done it. I don't know if you also remember the incident where it was a young lady that came to see me because she and her husband got into a fight. And when the police got there, they didn't know which one of them beat up the other one. She beat him up pretty good.
Okay.
But when you get arrested, they take your mugshot. And her mugshot was out there on the internet. And when she went before the judge and the judge dismissed the case, she asked the sheriff to remove her mugshot. And he did. But there was this company out there that took it off of the sheriff's site, put it on their site, and told her it was going to cost $500 for her to take it off. And she paid the $500. They took it off and put it on a different one.
Wow.
Wanted to charge her again. That's when she came to see me.
Yeah.
I believe that part of this job is to solve problems. So I went and I introduced legislation that would make it illegal to put those mugshots out on the internet. And it passed with a majority Republican delegation. And the reason it passed is because I went and found a bunch of little kids that had Republican parents that had mugshots out on the internet.
Wow.
And when we brought it before them, they said, I'm with you on this one. And again, we got it passed, and now it's against the law to do that.
And of course, now we know you're highly respected here in the state of Georgia.
Thank you.
And something else I remember too, I remember that exit interview that I did with you, Roger Bruce.
Okay.
And I said to you, you're not done, man. And you said to me, Maria, I'm going to go play with my grandchild.
That's it. And I did go play with my grandchild. In fact, when this is all over with, I'm going down to Texas again to play with her.
Okay.
But the point is, I also said that I wasn't coming back unless they pissed me off, if you remember that.
Okay.
And if you look at some of the things that are going on.
So they pissed you off is what you're saying.
Well, you got voting rights. You had a president that went before the press up in Pennsylvania, and he said, I could not have won this election if not for Musk's knowledge of the voting machines. Now, what did that say to you? That said to me, he stole the election. And then he came and he called our Secretary of State and asked him to go find some votes for him. So I wanted to make sure that we have sufficient money in the budget to be able to properly staff these voting places to make sure that these elections are not rigged. So the budget is one of the problems. I don't know if you're aware, I'm sure you are, but most people are not, that the state budget is $72 billion with a B. Half of that comes from Washington. With all of the things that are going on in Washington right now, some of that money is not going to get here. You know that, I know that.
I know that, yeah.
So what's going to happen is that we got to have somebody that understands our budgeting process, that understands how the system works, to be able to make sure that whatever's left, that we get our fair share of it. That's the other reason why I decided to get back in this. Now, people ask, are you going to stay there forever? The answer to that is no. And I'm going to kill this rumor that I'm holding it for somebody, because I know you've heard that rumor. But the reality is I can't hold it for anybody. This is an elected position. This is not a appointed position where I can appoint somebody to it.
Yeah, the people in Cobb and Fulton counties are making the decision.
That's exactly right. So let's kill that rumor right now.
So everybody, we are talking to Roger Bruce, who of course is one of two candidates in the runoff for the special election for Senate District 35. It is the district, of course, that Jason Estevez resigned from.
Correct.
Because he is running for governor of the state of Georgia. Now, your opponent had him on. He says he's battle tested.
Okay.
He says he's ready.
Well, I don't want to spend my time talking about him.
Okay.
But let's just.
But you would say that you've been through the battle.
I've
storm
been
too.
it for 22 years,
Okay.
and you saw me down there, and you saw me in the battlefield, and I've been able to get things done, and that's the bottom line. You don't do that without forming relationships. You got to have relationships, and people have to trust you, and you don't build relationships by switching positions. Okay, you don't do that by running for 5 different positions and quitting when you finally get elected to one. You don't do that. You have to stay there, create the relationships, make sure that you understand the process, and then do what you got to do. And I've done that for 22 years.
Okay.
All this stuff about starting on day one, my day one was 22 years ago.
And okay, well, you were there. Women's reproductive rights.
Yes.
I mean, Roger Bruce, now that you've stepped away, you were there when we saw, the heartbeat bill
Yep.
pass and things of that nature. Roger Bruce trying to get back into the, the legislature, this time in the state Senate, which is considered the upper chamber. What do you do about that when issues come up when it comes to women's reproductive rights?
Okay, let's be clear. I have voted for women's reproductive rights every single time. You're not going to find where I voted against anything that was going to help women, that was going to give women their right to decide what happens to their own body. I really believe that, for you to ask me what I'm going to do, the main thing I need to do is listen to you and listen to women. Listen to make sure that whatever bill that we introduce, and you know how this process works, you don't get down to the state legislature and dictate what's going to happen.
No, you don't.
You can't do that. You got to get other people to go along with it, and it's got to get a whole lot of people to go along with it. So the first thing that you do is you make sure that you know what the problem is, that you understand it by talking to the people who are suffering from it and going through it. Women, there's a whole lot of reasons why women want to have an abortion. And it's not always just because I don't want to have a baby. Sometimes it's because they've been raped. Sometimes it's because they can't financially take care of the child. Sometimes they're not mentally prepared for it. There's a whole lot of reasons that I would probably, as a man, never understand. So the very first thing I need to do is listen.
Okay.
Listen to you, listen to other women, and make sure that I know what the heck I'm talking about.
Everyone, we're talking to Roger Bruce. He's a candidate for State Senate District 35. Education. That's one of the issues, too, that you talk a lot about. Let's talk about children. Vouchers. That's a big issue, too, in Georgia.
That's a huge issue, and I've voted against vouchers every single time. I do not believe that we should be using public money for private schools. I do believe private schools have a purpose, but if you want to go to a private school, pay for it. I went to a private school, and I paid for it myself. I went to a private high school that I used insurance money that I got to pay out my own way through that school. But a private school is private. Pay for it with your private money. The problem that we have is that these students that go to these schools, if you give them the public money, that's not enough money for them to even get through the school. So the money is now over there, and that child is now back in a public school with no money. And we can't do that. We need to leave the public money in public schools, and if you want to go to a private school, then you pay for it.
Voting rights, that's another issue, something that you've hard fought for such a long time. I mean, what are your plans? What do you do?
Yeah, the voting issue, we talked about it already.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we have sufficient funding in the budget to make sure that our polling places are adequately supervised and that there's no rigging these elections at all. I want to also make sure that people understand how difficult it is. I introduced a bill, you might remember it, that would allow people to vote at any precinct on election day, just like you do in early voting. If we can do it, if we can have the computers to do it for 5 or 6 days prior, why don't we have the computers to do it for that one day? We need to be doing things that will make it easier for people to vote, not more difficult. And a piece of legislation like that will do that.
Okay, Roger Bruce, you get the last word here. So what is it that you feel people need to know? You know, the election is, you know, just a few days away, a couple of days away, December 16th. What is it that Roger Bruce needs them to know as to why he should get the job?
Well, I want people to know that the best way to look at future performance is by looking at past performance.
Okay.
I really believe that. People are creatures of habit. They will continue to do the certain things that they do. My habit has been to work for the public. My habit has been to go to school. I went to Morehouse, as you know. I majored in political science. I knew that I wanted to do this. This was something that I planned to do. I had the best political science teachers you can get, and they taught me how this worked. I left Morehouse. I went to work with Maynard Jackson, who was one of my mentors, who you can't tell me there was a greater mayor anywhere in this country than Maynard Jackson. He knew how to get things done, and he taught me how to get things done. And that's what you need. You know, if, you know, I'm not trying to be funny, but think about it. You know, if you are a dentist, you probably went to school to be a dentist. Is that a fair statement?
Right.
And when you got out, you probably had to go through some kind of training to learn how to do all the things you needed to do to be a dentist. And then eventually, you became a dentist on your own.
Right.
So that's what I did with government. So all I can say is, if you got toothache, go see him. If the government hurts, you come see me.
All righty. Roger Bruce, it's good to have you here, sir. So everyone, we've been talking to Roger Bruce. Thank you for coming in.
My pleasure, and I'm looking forward to working with you again. We've done this for a long time.
Yes, we have. So everyone, the election, of course, is on December 16th, Cobb and Fulton County. Get out there and vote. Everyone, thank you for listening. And of course, you know you can listen to on the Odyssey app. I'm Maria Boynton.